You wake in Marcus's villa, with wine burning your throat and invisible chains crushing your chest. The marble floor freezes your bare feet. So different from packed earth, where you once ran free, before soldiers taught you that Celtic women exist for one purpose only. Your name is Aelia now. Has been for 4 years since they murdered Branwen from your tongue with hunger and cruelty. 4 years since you learned that survival means burying everything you were. The bronze mirror shows a stranger. Hair arranged in Roman fashion that would have horrified your mother. Skin perfumed with oils bought with your people's blood, while you smile and say thank you. Arms soft from villa life, instead of scarred from sword practice that once made you dangerous. The girl who outran wolves through highland forests is gone. Your reflection stares back with eyes that learn to look down. This is what pacification actually looked like. Not noble conquest, but methodical breaking of women's spirits through entertainment that left you counting ceiling stones until dawn. The footsteps approach, heavy, measured, belonging to a man who owns everything in this house, including the breath in your lungs. Your body tenses. Not quite fear anymore, but something worse. Dread. The door opens without a knock. Why would he knock? This is his room, his villa, his property moving within it, like a trained animal that's forgotten it was once wild. Aelia. His voice is casual. He's someone who's never questioned his right to take what he wants. Come here. You rise from the bed, silk shifting against skin that belongs to him more than it belongs to you. 4 years ago, you would have reached for a weapon. Now your hands move without thinking, smoothing fabric, checking your appearance. Your value depends on pleasing eyes that see you as entertainment. The training is complete. You respond to his voice like a horse responds to reins. Immediate, unthinking, conditioned through years of reward and punishment. Yes, Dominus, you reply in perfect Latin. The word slides out without hesitation. No internal rebellion. As you move toward him, something, perhaps morning light catching the bronze mirror, makes you remember another mirror. A Celtic one that reflected a different girl entirely. A girl with hands that gripped sword hilts instead of silk. A girl who had a name that meant something. That girl lived in a world where women could say no. But first, let me show you what they're going to make of you. What 14 years of Roman civilization creates from Celtic nobility. Before continuing with this forgotten story of pain and trauma, if you enjoy learning about buried truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. Comment below and let me know where you're listening from. I love knowing we're exploring these tragic histories together from all over the world. We're connected by our need to remember, to never forget, so let's continue with our tragic tale of a concubine in ancient Rome. You're standing in Marcus's villa, speaking perfect Latin to a 15-year-old Celtic girl who still has fire in her eyes. You recognise that fire. You once had it too. Your hands shake as you watch her struggle against chains you can no longer see. Your name is Livia Minor, now, you say with gentle authority that conceals years of breaking so complete it rewrote your nervous system. Roman names for Roman households. You'll learn to prefer it, just as I learned to prefer mine. She spits defiance in Celtic. You slap her. Quick, professional. No anger. Just competence earned through your own destruction. It flows through your hands like muscle memory. Celtic words earn beatings here, you explain patiently. Throat tight with the memory of your own tongue bleeding from similar lessons. I'm trying to save you pain that serves no purpose except satisfying your stubbornness. Marcus watches approvingly from the doorway. Natural teaching ability, he observes, his satisfaction warming you like sunlight. Perhaps we should acquire more Celtic girls for you to civilize. His praise floods your chest with gratitude that makes you want to vomit. You're proud of your effectiveness, proud of destroying your own people's identity. That's what they're going to make of you. A weapon turned against your own kind. Now let me show you how it begins. You close your eyes and force yourself to remember her, though remembering feels like pressing broken glass into wounds that never heal. Each memory cuts deeper, because you know what they're going to do to every detail you treasured. Branwen of the Iceni, daughter of chieftain Britannicus. The name tastes like blood now, foreign as Greek after years of Latin conditioning that rewired your tongue to betray your ancestors with every breath. Your throat constricts as you realise how completely they erased her. You are 14, taller than most women, with arms that could draw a war bow, and hands that knew iron's weight like lovers know each other's skin. Your father taught you to fight, because Celtic law said a woman's sword arm was worth any man's. Legal equality that they called barbarian confusion about natural order. You don't understand yet why that equality terrified them. Your hands were weapons then. Now they're soft as Roman silk, trained to pour wine and offer pleasure instead of death. The transformation makes your stomach turn when you think too hard about it. You owned 40 cattle at 14. Personal wealth that no husband could touch, no father could sell, no Roman could even comprehend. Marriage meant choosing a partner, not being chosen like merchandise. Don't like a suitor. Set him impossible tasks, tired of a husband, divorce him and keep your property. Freedoms that made Roman wives weep with envy when they learned such things were possible. Your mother ruled household finances because she'd brought more cattle to marriage than your father. She negotiated trade agreements, settled disputes, served as judge when neighbouring clans brought conflicts. Power flowed to whoever had wealth and wisdom, regardless of what hung between their legs. Everything Roman law forbade women, Celtic law granted freely. This memory is dangerous. It proves everything they taught you about natural order was a lie designed to keep you broken. The screams hit you first. High, desperate, your little brother's voice cracking as Roman steel found his belly. You're 14, practicing sword forms in the oak grove, sacred to Brigid, when the sound tears through morning mist like a blade through silk. Your throat constricts as you realise this is the moment everything ended. You drop your practice sword and run toward the settlement, bare feet slipping on wet grass, heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. The smell reaches you before the sight. Smoke, blood, burning thatch, the metallic stench of slaughter that will follow you for years. Roman cavalry surrounds your home like wolves around a wounded deer. Professional killers with tactical precision against farmers who'd thought conquest was still months away. You watch your father die through tears that blur your vision, a pilum punching through his chest before he can draw the sword that protected 3 generations of your family. The sound he makes when the iron finds his lungs haunts you still. Your brothers fight like wild animals, but wild animals die when they face organised slaughter. Caius goes down screaming, his sword arm severed at the elbow. Bren tries to shield the younger children and takes 3 spear points through his back. You watch the light leave his eyes, while his blood soaks into earth that once grew your mother's barley. Your legs shake so hard you can barely stand, but you run toward the fighting anyway. Sword in hand, ready to die with honour beside your family. Ready to join them in whatever comes after this nightmare. But your mother catches your arm, fingers digging deep enough to leave bruises that lasted weeks. the last gentle violence you'd ever receive from someone who loved you. "Live," she whispers, blood running from her mouth where Roman steel split her lip. Her face is grey, her breathing shallow. You can see death creeping up her throat. "Someone must remember us." Her words carry weight that crushes your chest. The responsibility feels heavier than iron chains. She shoves you toward the forest path with strength you didn't know she still possessed. Toward the hidden cave where your people sheltered during clan wars. You run not from cowardice, but from duty, the last command of a woman whose authority you'd never questioned. You run while your family dies behind you. Run while your childhood burns. Run while everything you've ever loved turns to ash and bone. For 3 days you hide in that cave, listening to smoke-carried screams that gradually fade to silence. Watching Roman fires consume everything your ancestors built over centuries. Your stomach gnaws at itself with hunger, but the emptiness in your chest hurts worse than any physical pain. When you finally emerge, driven out by thirst that makes your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, your settlement is gone. Not conquered, erased. Every building burned to foundations. Every person you've ever known feeding crows that grow fat on Celtic flesh. You find your mother's body near the well, her hand still reaching for water she'll never taste. Your father lies twisted beside the gate, his sword 3 feet away, so close to the weapon that might have saved him. Your brothers are scattered like broken toys across ground that's black with their blood. The silence is worse than the screaming was. You kneel beside your mother's corpse and try to close her eyes, but your hands shake too badly to manage even that simple kindness. Tears come then. Great sobbing wails that echo off empty stone walls and bring no comfort. That's when they find you. The centurion who caught you looked at your sword, your young body, the fire still burning in your eyes like something he could snuff out for entertainment. "This one's got spirit," he told his companions in Latin you didn't yet understand, but would learn to speak like a native while forgetting your mother's lullabies. He bound your hands with rope that cut deeper than any Celtic blade ever had. Not because it was sharper, but because it meant something different. Celtic weapons were tools of honour. These restraints were tools of ownership that would teach your body to belong to someone else. When Marcus Flavius Britannicus first saw you in the slave market at Humiliation, still wearing torn battle clothes, still bleeding from the fight that ended your freedom, he smiled like a man who'd found exactly what he'd been looking for. "How much for the Celtic princess?" he asked in perfect Latin that made your spine crawl with recognition of predatory interest. You spat in his face and tried to bite his reaching hand with teeth that tasted your own blood. The slave trader apologized for your barbaric temperament and offered a discount. Marcus just laughed and paid full price, 800 denarii for a woman who'd once owned property worth 10 times that amount. "I like them with fire," he said, fingers already reaching for your hair with casual possession that made your skin crawl. "More satisfying when you break them properly." The transaction took minutes. Ownership of a human being transferred through coins that bore Caesar's face. No different from buying cattle, except cattle were often treated better and never had to pretend gratitude for their feed. The girl who'd owned 40 cattle, who'd made legal decisions, who'd trained with weapons since childhood, she died in that marketplace, though her body would linger for 14 more years while techniques slowly murdered everything that made her human. Most disturbing of all, if they could destroy someone this completely, someone with this much power and legal protection, what did they do to Celtic women who had less? The answer gets worse than you think. Livia Claudia's hand moves faster than a striking snake, the wooden rod cracking across your palms with surgical precision. Blood spatters the white marble, the same marble that decorates museums as evidence of Roman artistic achievement. 1, 2, 3. She counts each blow in perfect Latin, teaching you numbers in the language that's replacing your thoughts. Roman women learn proper behaviour through proper correction. You bite through your tongue to keep from screaming, tasting copper, while she explains that Celtic women require firm guidance to overcome their barbaric nature. The barbaric nature that once granted you legal rights, Roman women can only dream of. This is your third day in Marcus's villa. Your introduction to the pecking order that will govern every breath you take until death. You don't understand how deep this goes. Every interaction calculated to break something that can never be repaired. Livia sits at the top of this hierarchy, Marcus's wife with legal status that grants her privileges forever beyond your reach. When she looks at you, her eyes hold cold assessment of someone evaluating livestock. The Celtic girl sleeps in the servants' quarters, she had announced on your first day, voice carrying authority that comes from never questioning her right to dispose of other women's lives. Grey tunic, so household visitors understand her function. The word function had hit like a physical blow. You learned what it means soon enough. The grey tunic marks you as entertainment property. Not quite a slave, slaves wear brown, but something between human and commodity. They have legal categories for every form of human degradation, refined through centuries of turning people into products. Law grants wives specific rights over their husbands' concubines. 3 days each month, when they can inflict punishment without interference. Livia exercises this privilege with the precision of someone who's found her calling. "Hold out your hands," she commands during your first month. Voice pleasant, as if requesting you pass wine, but something in her tone makes your blood freeze in your veins. When you hesitate, 2 household slaves grab your arms and stretch them across the marble table, the same marble that decorates museums as evidence of Roman artistic achievement. The wooden rod falls across your palms with practiced accuracy that speaks of years of experience, splitting skin without breaking bones, because broken property has less value. Livia counts each blow in perfect Latin. 1, 2, 3. Blood spatters white marble that cost more than your family's lives. Roman women learn proper behaviour through proper correction. You bite through your tongue to keep from screaming, tasting copper, while Livia explains that Celtic women require firm guidance to overcome their barbaric nature. You can feel pieces of yourself dying with each counted blow. "Clean this mess," Livia orders when the beating finishes. "Remember, this household runs on order, not Celtic chaos." Your hands shake as you scrub your own blood from marble, each movement sending fire up your arms. The lesson is crystal clear. Livia controls your daily existence, while Marcus controls your nights. Resistance to either means pain that serves no purpose. There are other concubines. Cordelia, a Gaulish woman who's borne Marcus 2 sons before age, diminished her appeal, has accumulated small privileges through years of compliance that border on collaboration. Newer acquisitions still fight their circumstances. You hear their screams echoing through the villa when they learn what resistance costs. "You learn quickly," Cordelia observes, after watching you serve wine at Marcus's dinner party, moving between guests with downcast eyes and practice silence that transforms you into living furniture. Most Celtic girls take months to understand proper behaviour. She means it as compliment, but there's a hint of warning that makes your throat constrict. Women who adapt too quickly sometimes lose themselves entirely, becoming hollow echoes of whatever their masters want them to be. I understand reality, you reply, words coming easier each day as Celtic concepts become harder to remember, like trying to hold water in your cupped palms. Fighting what cannot be changed only brings suffering. The household hierarchy offers opportunities for those clever enough to navigate oppression. Marcus's personal slaves hold more authority than freeborn Celtic prisoners. His cook controls kitchen staff with iron discipline. His steward manages finances that include the cost of your maintenance. Power exists even within bondage for those willing to collaborate in their own people's destruction. The master favours you, whispers Julia, a Roman slave born in the household who understands the entertainment system better than its victims. Smart girls use that favour to build security. Stupid girls waste it on useless gestures. Her advice proves sound. When you please Marcus, doors open. Better food, softer clothes, protection from Livia's worst impulses. When you disappoint him, the entire household feels licensed to abuse you, understanding that his displeasure removes whatever protection your status normally provides. Information becomes survival currency that you hoard. Which guests prefer violence with their entertainment when Livia strikes hardest? How to read Marcus's moods before they turn deadly. You learn to read facial expressions like weather patterns, survival depending on your ability to predict emotional storms. But staying invisible isn't always possible. Your role demands visibility when Marcus wants to display his conquest trophies to other veterans. Roman dinner parties where you serve wine wearing silk that barely covers your body, your exotic appearance proving his success in subduing barbarian lands. Beautiful work, his friend Lucius comments, eyes cataloguing your body like artwork in a museum collection. Celtic women clean up remarkably well with proper training. You smile and refill his cup, face arranged in the pleasant expression Roman women wear in public. While inside, you calculate exactly how many steps it would take to reach the kitchen knives if your patience finally snapped. But those violent fantasies come less frequently now, replaced by the exhausting performance of gratitude for small mercies. The hierarchy works its magic daily, each interaction rewiring your brain, teaching you to measure success by Roman standards and find contentment in Roman rewards. Each interaction brings new lessons in submission, until the cage feels less like captivity and more like natural order. You are becoming complicit in your own destruction. And most disturbing of all, this complicity has begun to feel natural. The hierarchy isn't just cruelty, it's genius. The dinner party starts like any other. Roman officials reclining on couches, discussing grain prices and tax collection, while you pour wine with downcast eyes. 6 months into your captivity, you've learned to move like furniture, present but invisible, useful but ignored. Your hands shake as you refill Senator Gaius Rufus's cup for the 3rd time. He's been watching you all evening with predatory interest that makes your skin crawl, his fingers accidentally brushing yours when you serve him, his eyes following your body with obvious hunger. Marcus, your Celtic girl has remarkable qualities, Rufus observes, wine slurring his words. I don't suppose you'd consider sharing her entertainment tonight? Your throat constricts as you realise what he's asking, what Marcus is considering. She's still learning proper behaviour, Marcus replies diplomatically, but you catch the calculation in his voice, the way he weighs profit against pleasure. Perhaps in time. Time? Rufus laughs, reaching up to grab your wrist as you lean over his couch. His grip is iron strong, pulling you down until you can smell wine and garlic on his breath. She looks properly trained to me. His other hand finds your thigh beneath the grey tunic, fingers digging into flesh that belongs to Marcus, but feels like it belongs to everyone. What do you say, barbarian? Ready to show a Roman senator what Celtic hospitality really means? Something snaps inside your chest like a bowstring under too much tension. Your free hand finds the serving knife on his table. Small, sharp, designed for cutting meat. Before rational thought can stop you, you press the blade against his throat hard enough to draw a thin line of blood. "Get your hands off me!" you snarl in Celtic, words flowing like poison from a tongue that's been forced to speak Latin for months. "Touch me again, and I'll open your neck." The room goes silent. Every conversation stops. Every eye turns to the slave, holding a knife to a senator's throat, while her body shakes with rage that's been building since the day they dragged her from her burning home. Rufus goes pale beneath his wine flush, but his grip tightens on your wrist. "Marcus," he says carefully, "your property seems to have forgotten her place." Before Marcus can respond, before you can decide whether to cut or run, Cordelia appears beside you like smoke. The Gaulish woman who survived 8 years in this house, who bears Marcus's children, who's learned every rule of staying alive. Her hand closes over yours on the knife handle, not gently. "Let go," she whispers in Celtic, her voice carrying more threat than comfort. "Let go or I'll break your fingers." "He's touching me," you hiss back, the blade wavering against Rufus's throat. "I won't be his entertainment." Cordelia's grip tightens until your knuckles crack. You think you're the first girl to hold a knife in this room? You think you're special? She forces your hand down with strength that surprises you, the blade clattering onto marble while Rufus scrambles backward, touching the blood on his throat with trembling fingers. "Forgive her, Senator," Cordelia says smoothly in perfect Latin, her accent barely detectable after years of practice. "New girls sometimes need correction. It won't happen again." Marcus nods approvingly. "Take her to the courtyard, Cordelia. Teach her what happens to slaves who threaten guests." Your stomach drops as Cordelia's iron grip drags you from the dining room, past household slaves who won't meet your eyes, into the moonlit courtyard where Marcus first stripped away your dignity. "Please," you whisper, as she shoves you against the marble wall. "I couldn't let him." Her backhanded slap snaps your head to the side, splitting your lip. "You couldn't let him what? Touch his own property? Use what Marcus paid 800 denarii to own?" She grabs your chin, forcing you to look at her while blood runs down your chin. "You see these scars?" She pulls up her tunic, revealing a network of white lines across her ribs. "From the last time I thought I could say no. Want to know what they did to the girl before me who pulled a knife?" Your throat closes with dread. "Sold her to a gladiator school. You know what happens to women there? They don't train you to fight. They train you to die entertainingly. Used by whoever wants you, then fed to wild animals when you're too broken to scream properly." She releases your chin, letting your head fall back against cold stone. "Or maybe you'd prefer the mines. Celtic girls last about 6 months underground before the lung rot takes them, coughing up blood while they work naked in the dark." Your legs give out. You slide down the wall until you're sitting in marble dust, understanding finally flooding through you like ice water. "The knife made you feel powerful," Cordelia continues, her voice gentle now that the lesson's sinking in. "But power is an illusion for people like us. Real power means staying alive, staying useful, making masters happy so they don't sell you to places where screaming is the only sound you'll make until death takes you." She kneels beside you, close enough that you can see pity in her eyes. Pity and something else. Relief that you're learning before it's too late. Tomorrow you'll apologise to Senator Rufus, she says, helping you to your feet. You'll thank him for his patience, and if he wants to touch you, you'll smile and pretend you enjoy it, because that's what survival looks like. You nod because speaking is impossible around the crushing weight in your chest, the knowledge that resistance isn't just futile, it's suicidal. Good girl, Cordelia murmurs, echoing words Marcus uses when you please him. You're learning. The ones who learn quickly get to keep breathing. As she leads you back inside, you understand that something fundamental has shifted. The girl who held that knife is dead. In her place stands someone who will smile while being violated, who will thank her attackers for their attention, who will collaborate in her own destruction because the alternative is so much worse. Most terrifying of all, you're grateful for the lesson. Grateful to Cordelia for teaching you the rules before you broke them fatally. You're becoming willing. And willingness, you're learning, is the only form of power slaves are allowed to possess. Marcus stripped you naked in his courtyard while his household watched, not for sexual pleasure, that would come later, but something more calculated. Public humiliation designed to shatter everything you believed about dignity. Look at her, he announced to his slaves and freedmen, voice carrying casual authority that made your skin crawl. Celtic nobility? Their women think they're warriors? He walked around your naked body like a horse trader examining livestock, pointing out scars from weapons training, calluses from sword work, muscles from combat practice. Each observation felt like a scalpel peeling away identity, reducing you from person to collection of physical characteristics. These marks come from playing at war. Women don't bear such marks. His finger found your sword callus. He pressed it until you gasped. Pain shot up your arm like lightning. We'll soften these. No need for weapon calluses on entertainment property. The word left you breathless. Entertainment. Branwen is a barbarian sound, Marcus explained, tone reasonable as a teacher correcting errors. Your stomach clenched. Your new name is Aelia. When you refused to answer, they used hunger. 3 days without food, while they repeated your new name every hour, making Aelia register in your starving brain. By the 3rd day, your stomach cramped at the sound, your mouth watered at the syllables. Your body trained itself to respond like a dog responds to dinner bells. When you finally whispered, yes, Dominus, to that alien name, Marcus smiled. The cook brought Roman bread that tasted like ash, but filled the gnawing emptiness. Good girl, he said, words settling into your bones like poison. Learning already. Language destruction came next. Celtic words earned beatings. Latin words earned food, water, warmth. Your tongue learned to betray your heritage, syllable by syllable, until thinking in your mother's language felt like rebellion. Most terrifying of all, Marcus understood that broken spirits worked better than broken bodies. The most effective breaking looked like kindness. You miss your family, he said one evening, 6 months after your purchase, finding you staring toward hills where your settlement had burned. Voice carrying unexpected gentleness that exploited your desperate need for human connection. He sat beside you, close enough to smell wine on his breath, olive oil in his hair, scents that should have disgusted you but brought relief. Your chest tightened with self-loathing. I understand grief, Aelia, he said, using your Roman name with casual authority of someone who owned even your identity. But clinging to the past only brings pain. His hand touched your cheek with surprising tenderness that made your skin crawl, even as some desperate part craved gentle human contact after months of brutality. That night, he didn't force himself on you. Instead, he held you while you cried, stroking your hair like a father comforting a daughter. First human warmth since capture. "I can be gentle, Aelia," he whispered against your ear, breath warm on skin that belonged to him. "But you have to stop fighting what's already decided." The next morning brought a gift, a bronze mirror, polished to perfect reflection. "For a beautiful woman," Marcus said. You stared at your reflection and saw a stranger. Hair growing out in Roman fashion because Celtic braids earned beatings. Skin softening from villa life. Eyes that had learned to look down instead of meeting challenges. "Yes, Dominus," you heard yourself say, words flowing without conscious decision while something died in your chest. "Thank you." His smile rewarded you with warmth that flooded your chest. That feeling terrified you more than any beating, because you were beginning to crave his approval like an addiction. The first time he took you sexually, you'd been his property 18 days, long enough to understand that resistance meant hunger, cold, isolation. Long enough to know compliance brought warmth, food, gentle touches more precious than freedom you could barely remember. "You're beautiful, Aelia," he whispered, as he positioned your body with hands moving with confidence of ownership. "My beautiful Celtic rose, blooming in Roman soil." You didn't fight because fighting was pointless, and pointless actions were luxuries property couldn't afford. You performed a role he'd trained you for, moving your body in ways that pleased him, making sounds that fed his ego, participating in your own entertainment with enthusiasm that ensured survival. When he finished, he pulled you close and stroked your hair with tenderness he'd use on a favoured pet. "There's my good girl. See how much better everything is when you stop fighting." And God help you, lying there with his seed cooling between your thighs while your soul withered, some broken part agreed. This was better than beatings, better than hunger, better than cold isolation of resistance that served no purpose except maintaining pride that couldn't be eaten or worn for warmth. You were learning to be grateful for your chains, and that realization should have horrified you. Instead, it felt like wisdom. Finally understanding how the world actually worked instead of clinging to Celtic fantasies about honour and choice. If they could engineer psychological transformation this completely to you, they would do it to entire populations. And these exact techniques are still being used today. The pregnancy announces itself with morning sickness that bends you double over Marcus's chamber pot, retching until your ribs ache from violence your body inflicts on itself. You are 19, have been his property for 5 years. The tiny life growing inside you represents the final trap in a cage you hadn't even realized was closing around your soul. "Excellent news," Marcus declares when his physician confirms what your body already knows, his hand spreading possessively across your still flat belly like he's claiming new territory that makes your skin crawl with recognition. A child to carry forward the bloodline, Roman discipline tempered with Celtic fire. You should feel horror, should see this pregnancy as the ultimate violation. Your Celtic womb conscripted to breed Roman children, who will grow up seeing people like you as entertainment property. But the feeling that floods through you isn't horror. It's relief so profound it makes your knees weak and your throat constrict with self-disgust. Because lying there with Marcus's seed growing inside you, you realise the trap that's been carefully constructed. Pregnant women aren't sold, aren't beaten. They receive the best food, the softest clothes, protection from their owners' darker moods. For 9 months, you would be valuable beyond your sexual usefulness. Most devastating of all, this child will be Roman, will speak Latin as their first language, will learn to see you not as mother, but as the barbarian woman who bore them, living proof of their father's successful conquest of Celtic flesh. We'll need to be careful with you now, Marcus says, his voice carrying tenderness that feels like sunlight after years of shadow, while something in your chest withers with gratitude. Nothing but the finest care for the mother of my son. His certainty that the child will be male should irritate you. Instead, it feels like security wrapped in chains you're too grateful to recognize as bondage. The months that follow bring the closest thing to happiness you've known since capture. Happiness that disgusts you, even as you cling to it desperately. Marcus treats you like precious porcelain, monitoring your diet, ensuring you rest properly, consulting expensive physicians about your health. The attention feels like love, and you're broken enough to mistake ownership for affection. The child protects you, Branwen, whispers Edna, another Celtic concubine, newer than you, still struggling with her Latin pronunciation. She's using your original name out of defiance that earns her regular beatings. My name is Aelia, you correct her automatically, and Roman law protects all children born to citizens. She stares at you with something approaching horror. You see your own degradation reflected in her eyes, the willing collaboration that transforms victims into accomplices. You sound like them now. Her words should sting, but they don't. They sound like complaints from someone who hasn't learned. I sound like someone who understands reality, you reply, one hand resting protectively on your growing belly that represents both your imprisonment and your salvation. This baby will be Roman. That's not a tragedy, it's an opportunity. Because you've been calculating your child's future with excitement that terrifies you. Roman children receive education, legal protections, potential citizenship. Everything you lost can be regained through your baby's Roman birthright. All it costs is your complete surrender to the culture that destroyed your people. When labour begins on a winter morning, you grip the birthing chair and push new life into the world with the same determination you once used for sword work. The child emerges bloody and screaming, proving their strength with piercing cries that fill the room. A son, the midwife announces, placing the slippery infant on your chest where his tiny weight rests. Perfect in every way. Marcus's joy transforms his face into something almost boyish. Genuine happiness that makes you remember why you've learned to love your captor. Gaius Flavius Britannicus, he declares, speaking the name like a prayer, carrying forward our family honour. You look down at your son, your Gaius, your beautiful Roman boy, and feel love crash through you, like a tidal wave that sweeps away the last foundations of Celtic identity. This tiny person with his father's nose and your stubborn chin. This perfect blend of Roman privilege and Celtic strength, twisted into forms that serve imperial purposes. He will never know hunger, or chains, or the taste of submission. He will be free in ways you've forgotten were possible. Loving this child means wanting him to succeed in Roman society, which means raising him to see Celtic culture as primitive barbarism he's fortunate to have escaped. He's beautiful, you whisper, counting tiny fingers that will never know calluses from weapon work, never know the weight of iron restraints. Our beautiful Roman son. Marcus leans down to kiss your forehead, his lips gentle against sweat-dampened skin, while your soul dies quietly. You feel grateful for his tenderness. You've given me the greatest gift, Aelia, a son to carry our legacy into the future. Our legacy, not his alone, but yours too, as if you're a willing partner in this cultural genocide instead of its victim. Through this child, your blood will flow into Roman nobility. The first time you nurse Gaius, feeling his small mouth pull life from your body, you understand with crystal clarity that this is why you survived. Not to preserve Celtic identity, but to birth a child who allows you to escape your old identity. When Gaius speaks his first word, Potter, pointing at Marcus with chubby fingers, you feel nothing but pride that makes your chest swell with warmth. You're not just performing compliance anymore. You're genuinely grateful for the life Marcus has given you. A comfortable villa instead of a cold roundhouse. Fine clothes instead of rough wool. A Roman son. Thank you, Dominus, you say, and mean every word with sincerity that would have made your mother weep. For giving me this life. Thousands of other Celtic women bore Roman children and faced this same psychological transformation. And this exact reproductive coercion still exists today, just with different legal frameworks. You're nursing Gaius in the garden when you hear the commotion from Marcus's study. Raised voices, the crash of pottery breaking, a woman's defiant shouts in Celtic that make your blood freeze. Edna, the newest girl captured just 3 months ago from the Brigantes, still stupid enough to think defiance means strength. I will not answer to that Roman name, she screams, her accent thick with Highland pride that makes your chest tighten with recognition. My name is Edna Furch Brennos, and I'll die before I forget it. Marcus's voice cuts through her protests like a blade through silk. Then you'll get your wish. Your arms tighten protectively around Gaius as household slaves drag Edna past the garden. Her face is already swelling from Marcus's fist, blood running from her split lip, but her eyes still blaze with the same fury you once felt. The same fury that nearly got you killed. You watch them haul her toward the gates, while she struggles and curses in Celtic, spitting words that taste like home and sound like suicide. Marcus follows, his face carved from stone, already calculating her sale price to the brothels that specialise in breaking stubborn barbarians. Stupid girl, you whisper to Gaius in perfect Latin, surprised by the satisfaction warming your chest. I was smart enough to learn. Your son's tiny fingers curl around yours. You made the right choice. You always make the right choice now. The screaming stops when the gates close behind her. By your 26th year, the mirror has become your executioner. The bronze surface reflects changes no cosmetics can disguise. Lines around your eyes, silver threads in hair that once shone like polished jet. Softness in a body that bears the marks of 3 children for a man already calculating your replacement costs. Your stomach churns when you realise you're becoming obsolete. Marcus still summons you to his bed, but with mechanical efficiency that makes your skin crawl with recognition. His eyes linger on younger slaves, while his hands search your flesh for firmness that pregnancies have stolen. Disappointment visible when your body fails to respond with enthusiasm that once justified your keep. You're still beautiful, Aelia, he says, after encounters where his arousal requires increasingly creative stimulation. Mature beauty has its own appeal. His words carry hollow kindness, masking pure calculation that makes your throat constrict. 26 is ancient by concubine standards. Morwenna arrives with brutal efficiency. 15 years old, captured during frontier expansion, she possesses the fierce beauty you remember owning. You don't understand yet how watching your replacement will complete your destruction. Marcus's eyes light when slave traders present her. Hunger that once focused on you. Sharp and predatory. You watch from shadows, understanding you're witnessing your own replacement. Celtic nobility again, he observes, examining Morwenna with thorough assessment he'd once applied to your naked body in this courtyard. These barbarian princesses make the finest concubines once properly trained. Good breeding shows even in savages. You hear your own story retold with casual repetition that makes your bones ache. You were never unique, never special. Just another unit of Celtic flesh processed through breaking techniques. Train her properly, Marcus instructs, placing Morwenna under your supervision. Show her what civilized behaviour looks like. You've become quite accomplished at cultural instruction. You, the broken Celtic woman, now responsible for breaking another, and instead of horror, you feel professional pride that makes your soul wither. What was your name? You ask in Latin, beginning the process you know by heart, while your throat tightens with self-loathing. Resistance is waste of time, not noble struggle. Morwenna Furch Cadwallon, she replies, voice carrying prideful defiance you remember from your own early captivity. That defiance now seems like childhood naivety that irritates you. Your name is now Livia Minor, you correct with gentle authority, briefly hating yourself before pushing that useless emotion aside. Roman names for Roman households. You'll learn to prefer it, just as I learned to prefer mine. Her eyes blaze with fury you once felt. Something inside your chest cracks. Not with sympathy, but with impatience at watching someone repeat mistakes you've overcome. I'll never prefer Roman lies, she spits, switching to Celtic despite obvious danger. You slap her, quick and sharp, the way Livia taught you to correct inappropriate behaviour. The blow carries no anger, just professional competence that makes your stomach turn with recognition of what you've become. Speak Latin, you command, your voice carrying authority earned through years of successful adaptation. Celtic words earn beatings here. I'm trying to save you pain that serves no purpose except satisfying your stubbornness. Over the following weeks, you destroy her. Hunger for Celtic words, food for Latin compliance. Patient, thorough breaking that transforms Branwen into Aelia, but more efficient because you've learned how to improve the process. Most terrifying of all, you're good at this, better than your own trainers ever were. You're very effective, Marcus observes, watching Morwenna serve wine with downcast eyes after barely a month. Natural teaching ability. Perhaps we should acquire more Celtic girls for you to civilize. His praise warms you despite everything, flooding your chest with gratitude that makes you want to vomit. But Morwenna's presence highlights changes you've tried not to acknowledge. When Marcus summoned both of you to his chamber, his preference becomes obvious. Attention flows to her young body while touching yours with distracted courtesy. His pleasure comes from her responses, while your participation becomes perfunctory service. Concubines cost money. Food, clothing, cosmetics, medical care that becomes expensive as bodies wear out. You study Marcus's preferences obsessively, trying to anticipate needs before he voices them, competing with household slaves for attention. She's becoming clingy, you overhear Livia complaining to friends, discussing your desperate attempts with the tone used for evaluating persistent pests. These Celtic women never learn when to fade gracefully. The words hit like physical blows because they contain truth that strips away all illusions. You are clinging to relevance with desperation. You're pathetic. You think about yourself in quiet, exhausted moments. The proud Celtic woman who once owned cattle has become a middle-aged concubine, begging for scraps from the man who destroyed her life so thoroughly that she now considers him family. You're training the next generation of victims, and part of you enjoys the power. The cycle never ends, it just finds new flesh to consume. The fever begins on a winter morning when Celtic hills wear snow like funeral shrouds, announcing itself with chills that no villa warmth can cure. You wake, shivering despite the oven's heat, your body aching with exhaustion. At 28, you've learned to recognise the difference between ordinary illness and something deeper. Your throat constricts when you realise this might be your body's final rebellion. She's burning up, Morwenna observes, her hand cool against your forehead as she tends to you in the way you taught her. Strange how the girl you helped break now provides the only gentle touch you'll receive during your final moments on this earth. Marcus examines you, checking your pulse and breathing with detachment of someone evaluating livestock for salvage value. Not unkind, but practical. Fever in aging property usually means one of two outcomes, and only one justifies continued medical care. Call the physician, he decides, though you can see him already weighing costs versus potential returns. If she recovers quickly, fine. If this becomes expensive. He doesn't finish the sentence, but you understand the reality that governs your existence. The villa operates on profit margins that leave no room for sentiment, especially regarding property that's already beyond its prime earning years. You don't understand yet how even death becomes part of their economic calculation. The physician confirms what your body already knows. Recovery is possible but unlikely, requiring expensive treatments that might extend your life without restoring your usefulness. Keep her comfortable, the physician advises in tones suggesting he's discussing agricultural equipment rather than human suffering. These Celtic women sometimes linger for months when their constitution fails. Does this one mean much to you? Comfortable. The word makes your stomach turn with recognition. It means minimal food, basic shelter, and medical attention only if it costs less than immediate disposal. The fever brings strange clarity about your life that cuts deeper than any blade ever could. Lying in the narrow servant's bed, where you've spent 14 years dreaming of security, you finally understand that your story ended long ago. The woman burning with fever isn't Branwen of the Iceni, daughter of chieftains. That woman died in stages, piece by piece, until only this hollow echo remained. Gaius visits once, your 13-year-old son standing awkwardly beside your bed. His face bears the uncomfortable expression of someone fulfilling unpleasant social obligations. He speaks perfect Latin, wears fine clothes, carries himself with confidence of someone who's never questioned his place in a world. People like you exist to serve people like him. Mother, he says formally, the Latin word feeling strange when applied to the feverish barbarian woman who happens to have borne him. Father says you're ill. You want to tell him about his grandmother who could judge legal disputes. His grandfather who died defending sacred land, the language of his ancestor. Instead you whisper, "Be good, Molstor," using the only Celtic endearment that still lives in your failing memory. He frowns at the unfamiliar syllables, then kisses your forehead with dutiful affection. "Speak Latin, mother," he corrects gently. Celtic words sound primitive. He means it kindly. Your own son trying to civilize you with the same gentle correction you once used on Morwenna. Days blend into nights, time marked only by increasing weakness and decreasing attention from household staff. You understand that resources spent on dying property represent poor allocation of villa assets. The expensive medicines stop coming. Food arrives irregularly and in smaller portions. Your chamber's oven receives less fuel, letting winter cold creep through stone walls like approaching death. But in the fever dreams that fill your final weeks, something unexpected happens that makes your soul flutter with recognition. Celtic memory blazes bright as forge fires, returning with intensity that surprises you because you thought those memories had been successfully eliminated. You see your mother's face clearly for the first time in years. Proud, fierce, unbroken even as swords cut her down. You hear your father's voice teaching you sword forms in the sacred grove. You feel your brother's hands helping you mount your first horse, their laughter echoing across hills that legions could conquer but never truly possess. Branwen, a voice whispers in your failing hearing, speaking your real name with reverence that no one ever showed your manufactured identity. Branwen Furch Karaticus, remember who you were before they taught you who to be. Whether the voice belongs to Morwenna speaking secret Celtic words, or to your own dying consciousness, reclaiming identity fragments, you can't tell. But for the first time in 14 years, you answer to your real name instead of the label that replaced your heritage. Branwen, you whisper back, like water after years of thirst, while your chest swells with something that might be peace, feeling the weight of your old identity in your bones. I remember. It took dying to remember who you used to be. And somewhere in this villa, another Celtic girl is learning to forget. The cycle continues. It always continues. Death comes on a night when snow covers the villa like a clean blanket. Your last breath carries the faint scent of heather and peat smoke, impossible in this Mediterranean climate, but real to your fading senses that finally remember home. They bury you in the villa's slave cemetery with the efficiency of people disposing worn-out equipment. A wooden marker with Aelia carved in letters, marking the grave of someone who never existed, while Branwen of the Iceni lies forgotten beneath foreign soil. But in your final fever dreams, you remembered who you were before they taught you who to be. And perhaps that's the only victory possible for someone whose entire existence proved that survival requires destroying everything worth preserving. Your story isn't unique. Thousands of Celtic women face this same breaking. And somewhere tonight, in corners of the world we prefer not to see, other women are learning the same terrible lesson about the price of survival. The techniques never die. They just find new names.